We
Oh,
are
hey, hey,
live. We are live.
we are live.
We are live, and Todd's ready getting screwed by you, Darvish, on this wonderful Friday night. That probably just means he gave up a single or something. Or is it
He
more
gave
than
up a run.
that? Oh, wow.
I'm in a tight fantasy battle right now. I need huge comeback plays from my
He's giving up.
starters. Bieber on Saturday, right? Tomorrow?
Yeah, I think he pitches
Bieber
tomorrow.
is tomorrow?
No. Tomorrow's Cole. Is it Cole Bieber?
I think it's Cole Bieber, so this is a problem for me. I have
Yeah,
Bieber in fantasy.
doesn't sound great. Tomorrow's Cole Bieber, yeah. Jeez. It's a good matchup. Yeah, we are live. We are live. Episode
We are live.
23 of the On the
The
Bump
Jordan
podcast.
episode.
The Jordan episode. The MJ episode. Lot to talk about today. I wouldn't say eventful week, but still a week in baseball nonetheless.
It's April.
It's April. Yeah, teams are getting hot, teams are getting cold. Some teams have a lingering issue, I feel like we'll get into that a little bit soon, and we can start with the New York report. And watching the Yankees, it feels like they're coming out of it a little bit, but I still worry that there is a morale issue with Aaron Boone as the manager long term.
I really think they need a hard ass as their manager. I think these guys are a little bit, I wouldn't say pampered, but I feel like they've put the cart before the horse in that their heads are bigger than what they've actually accomplished. If this team was playing in if this group was, I don't know, the Cincinnati Reds, these guys wouldn't get this much attention, except the Giancarlo Stantons and the Garrett Coles of the world. Outside of that, no one would be talking about Aaron Judge or Gleyber Torres or Gary Sanchez. So, in that respect, I think they need to get their. It's not an ego thing. I don't think any of these guys are egomaniacs. I think it's that they kind of go, "Oh, I'm in New York. I play for the Yankees. I'm good," without actually putting the bat to the ball and doing the job. So I'd like to see a little more consistency on that front. Obviously, it's April. We're about 20 games in? Not even 20 games in. We're getting to about 20 games in.
The most that's been played is exactly 20.
So that's an eighth of the way through the season. Yeah. So, you can't really make too much out of anything at this point in the year. The part that concerns me is, of course, people go, "Oh, it's April, whatever, they'll figure it out." Yes, that's true. I agree with that. I'm someone who says that they will figure it out. But the issue is that the problems that this team has are problems, whether it's April, May, June, July, August, that they go cold at random times, and the most random time and the least affordable time for it is when it's in the middle of a playoff series in October and all the bats go cold. So that's the main issue I'm thinking about here is when I see guys like Aaron Hicks not be able to hit, Judge go through cold streaks, Gary go hot and cold, Gleyber having his issues. Does this team have the mental fortitude to get out of it and go into October and win a World Series?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What would worry me is, like you said, the issues go way deeper than just 1 month. And it's not like
just that they're like cold and they're, like they need to get into the swing of things. It's not like that. Like a pitcher needs some innings under their belt to get their arm loose. It's not like that.
And it's not like not the morale issues, but the like laziness at times, the effort issues are new. It's not just coming out in April out of nowhere. And I think the one thing that worried me too is we know the Yankees are always due for a plague of injuries at some point. So could that happen?
Been pretty fortunate in that respect.
Yeah.
Of course, Luke
Um,
Voigt and Zach Britton are significant injuries, but in the scheme
correct.
of what they've seen in years past, the fact that we're 20 games in and there was a bit of an injury scare the first few games with Aaron Judge. No one was really sure what was going on. And Giancarlo Stanton hasn't had any signs of injury. So,
Yep. And I mean, if you find a way to get Zach Britton, Luke Voigt, and Severino all healthy,
right. And
change,
Severino.
changes the dynamic. I mean, Severino's more of a forgotten guy because you're not adding him into your total for your wins for anything. I mean, Britton and Voigt are two guys you have to account for, but Severino you don't necessarily account for till he's there and showing you that he can do it at a larger scale. But Yankees obviously they just win just right now. They get the second of the series in Cleveland. Two games that I didn't pay attention to much tonight. They felt a little sloppy, but they still get the win, and that's all that matters right now for the Yankees, who need wins desperately.
I think I'd like tomorrow for Cole and Bieber to each pitch 8 shutout innings, and then Yankees score a run in the ninth and win 1-0. I'll go
I
with that.
mean, well, but while we're talking about pitching performances, uh, Mets tonight. We just finished the Mets game. Jacob DeGrom, 9 innings, 15 Ks, 2 hits, no walks. He was no runs, unreal again. We definitely, as Met fans, take him for granted. It's not even a question anymore because even if we loved him, respected him, which we do, and we knew he was the greatest, we're still undervaluing him. He's that good of a pitcher right now. I know people at different eras of age who say he's the best you've ever seen. Hernandez said on the broadcast, he said, not on Dwight Gooden's best day was he Jacob DeGrom, which is such a statement for Keith Hernandez. But another little note here, through 4 starts, Jacob DeGrom has 50 strikeouts. That is a new major league record. It's a new major league record through 4 starts. So
Over
he's
12 a start.
and he's batting 500 too. He is just he's absolutely unreal. I would think right now. I mean, it's so early, but if you want to talk about a leader in the clubhouse for MVP, he's got to be in that discussion. Um, he's been a monster, and the Mets bats get going a little bit here in Washington. Washington is severely struggling if Max Scherzer's not on the mound, and Mets get a win they very much needed. They had a rough series against the Rockies. They ended up winning the series, but then they go to Chicago and it's rainy and it's cold and it's cold and it's snowy and or just a rough series there. They just needed to get home, and they do. So they get back on the board with a win. DeGrom gets them what they need.
Yeah, if there was ever a guy that should be inducted into the Hall of Fame as an active player, it's Jacob DeGrom. And I think back to when the Mets rotation was like everyone was going crazy over that group of like 4 or 5 guys that were on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And it was always, of course, Matt Harvey and then everyone else. Harvey was everyone thought he was going to be the superstar, he was going to be the Hall of Famer, he was going to be the all-time great. And it's not, obviously. Although Harvey did have a decent start the other day. Obviously not to anywhere near the stratosphere of anything remotely close to Jacob DeGrom, but it's just wild that out of that group that Jacob DeGrom became he's the face of baseball, isn't he, at this point? Like, I feel like he is.
Evan?
He's the face of baseball at this point.
I mean, if people are debating that he's the best pitcher to ever touch a mound, then yeah, I mean it has to be. He has to be. Him and Trout.
Right, except Trout is not in the New York market or playing for. If Trout was on the Dodgers in the LA market, it would be a different story. But because the Angels are much more, they're not even, of course, technically in LA, and no one is paying as much attention to the Angels as people are to the Dodgers. And of course, the New York market is the baseball mecca. So,
and DeGrom's just literally been doing whatever he wants. I mean, like tonight, through the first 7 innings, he was just using his powerful stuff, striking out guys left and right. And in the last 2 innings, he just decided to go down to 99, have these guys hit into contact, get some ground balls, and get out of the game. I think he threw 18 pitches in the last 2 innings to finish the complete game. So good stuff. I mean, you don't see that in baseball anymore. The complete game shutouts, they're just a dime a dozen. Happy that Rojas let him finish.
Right, and usually later in the later innings of a long start is when you start laboring, start throwing more pitches an inning, and to see him throw 9 pitches on average in the last 2 innings is pretty remarkable. I mean, and even like the Nationals are one of the worst offenses in baseball, but the fact that DeGrom can get up for these kind of games where, you know, he could say coming into this game, I'm the best pitcher in the game. This is going to be easy. And then he kind of, you know, goes at it lackadaisically and gives up a couple of runs. No, he completely shuts the door, strikes out 15, puts together an all-time great pitching performance, and just we take that, like you said, we take that for granted.
I just hope that we get a chance to give him a title run, give him a title, yes. let see him in a 7-game series as the horse he is, and I just hope we get that opportunity. And obviously the Mets playing good baseball. I mean, they had a rough start with all the rainouts and the cancellation. It was hard to really get
isn't great. But they haven't needed much of the offense at this point.
No, they haven't. And the pitching between him and Stroman has been unreal. The bats will get going. I think it's been a tough start with the cancellations and everything that's happened. You can't really get your feet going, and hopefully now coming home for the weekend. Actually, for the week, I think they're home next week too, against Boston, which will be a tough series. But just to kind of get your feet under you and get moving a little bit. And I guess
obviously one of the highest powered offenses right now, which is surprising.
We could jump right into the next topic for that one. Bring in the Heat. The Red Sox, and they're still playing just as good as ball as we left them last week.
Cooling off a little bit.
A touch. What are they now? 12-8, still in first place. But JD Martinez is catching fire. JD Martinez, I think, has batting over 360. He's already got.
This is a contract year for him now?
No. I mean, I think he has opt-outs like every year for the next 3. He has one of those contracts.
I wouldn't opt out if I were him.
He leads the league in RBIs, 21, 7 home runs, batting 368. It's getting real hot. And, I mean, Red Sox are kicking it up into high gear. Alex Verdugo has been good. Martinez has been good. Rafael Devers has been good enough. Their pitching has, again, keeping them in these games, which is the biggest thing. I think they just finished their game off. They won 6-2. Oh, wow. They were up 6-2, and they just get 3 runs in the 9th. It's 6-5. Luckily, I didn't have the -1.5. So
neither did I.
Yeah, Red Sox are there. Some of the other bringing the Heats. Obviously, Jacob DeGrom. I'll go back into that because we just dove pretty deep there.
I had that on here. Also, the Oakland A's. Obviously, I mean, they started out 1-7. Now they're at the top of that division, and it's not the guys that you would expect it to be coming from that are propelling this run they're on. It's kind of these guys who were on the trash heap on the last legs of their career, where no one really wanted them, especially a guy like Jed Lowry, who has been fighting the injury bug for years and years and years. He was decent during his Red Sox years, and kind of from there on, he kind of tapered off, and now he's back in Oakland. I think he's batting like 320 something, and OPS way above average. Mitch Moreland also. Jed is 37, I believe. Mitch Moreland's 35. Mitch has never really been a full-time, like 162 game first baseman, and he's just been raking. Matt Olson, I think his OPS plus was like 216 or something ridiculous. And Chapman and Laureano are below average right now. They're still not up to their full potential. So, yeah, you don't expect it to sustain or the offense to the source of the offense to continue to be Jed Lowry and Mitch Moreland. But you expect on the flip side, you'd expect Chapman and guys like Laureano to pick it up. And Matt Olson is a guy you'd expect to potentially sustain that. So that division's going to get interesting. I wasn't too high on them coming into this, but we'll see here.
I just don't quite understand why these small market teams haven't tried to copy what teams like the Tampa Bay Rays and the Oakland Athletics have done by just creating an advanced stat department, analytical department. I know we knock it.
I think the Royals are figuring it out.
I think a
they're
bunch
next.
of teams are trying to. Like Baltimore hired a big stat GM. He's a big analytic GM. Kansas City's.
Well, I mean, baseball in general is going to go that way.
Realistically, the Royals were like that a couple of years ago. They just couldn't pay all their guys, and they didn't figure it out as perfect of a system as Oakland and Tampa Bay have done.
They didn't figure out how to replenish. That's what the A's and the Rays do. They replenish those guys.
Well, I think the biggest issue with the Royals was that they won a title. It's a lot harder to dump these big players for younger prospects when you don't win a title. But once you win it, how are you going to tell your fan base after a World Series we're trading Moustakas, Hosmer in their contract years?
Well, in hindsight, they probably should have.
In hindsight, they should have extended them. Found a way to do it.
Well, money doesn't grow on trees, so
no,
I don't
but
know.
I mean, you picked up one of them.
But kind of to that point. Okay, no, keep going, actually.
Well, I mean, speaking about the Athletics, you have the Mariners who are one game behind them. Mariners are pretty
but Mariners started 13-2. 13-2 last year, so let's. Although they're the way they're constructed, in 2 years, I think that team's probably going to be a problem. But for now,
that outfield. Think about that outfield right now. It's going to be Kyle Lewis, Julio Rodriguez, and Jared Kelenic.
Yeah, it's pretty. Unless, of course, someone gets traded, which.
I mean, they traded for Kyle Lewis. They traded for Kelenic and Julio. I mean, I guess I can realistically. Julio's a big boy. I could see him DHing, I guess, at some point. But still, those are 3 top flight outfielders that you already have in your system.
I still think they're a year or two away. But speaking of replenishing, Joey Wendell on the Rays, where has he come from? I mean, he has been a guy who never. Now here's a guy who has never been a major league quality everyday shortstop, second baseman, middle infielder, and here he is batting like 330, something like that, putting up. It seems like every day you look at the box score, he has a double, he has 2 hits, has 2 RBIs. He's just consistent production. I'm not going to say obviously because he's not, but it's DJ LeMahieu-esque what he's doing.
He's along that line of Brandon Lau, Ben Zobrist, those type of guys that have came out of the system that they find ways to figure it out. And you can go down the lists for Tampa of the random guys that have appeared. I mean, Manuel Margot was dead before he got to Tampa Bay, and he turned into something. Travis d'Arnaud, they flipped around. Joey Wendell's turned into something. Ji-Man Choi turned into something.
Yeah, so, Ji-Man Choi was really out of nowhere.
He's not this year yet, but still, I mean, they flip these guys into something successful all the time. So it's not shocking at this point for me. But
yeah, that's the key with these small market teams is replenishment, because they're not going to be able to when you look at like the Yankees tried doing the farm system, and that's kind of relying on the young guys, which is kind of where they're at right now. But the problem is they didn't replenish the farm system. Their farm system isn't barren right now, but it's not what it once was. And if they need an arm or something, they can't go out. That's the difference with the trade market. That's trading obviously is the great equalizer because it's not about, of course, when you're getting guys in return, it's about how much, if you can afford to pay them, but there are ways to work around that, of course. Whereas the Yankees have had to play the free agency game as is in their DNA. And the last time they played that successfully, the 2008 offseason, where they went on that $500 million spending spree, they won a World Series. So they need to figure something out here.
If the Yankees wanted to be like who they are building through the offseason, they would have somehow found a way, and I know you don't like them, but they would have found a way to bring in Trevor Bauer. They had such a need at starting pitcher, whether you like him or not.
He wouldn't have fit just the Yankees. He would have really been a thorn in the side of a lot of guys in that clubhouse.
You know who I can see he's in his contract year becoming a Yankee next year? Max Scherzer. I can see him being a Yankee.
I don't know about that.
Max Scherzer and Garrett Cole at the top of that.
But whatever. I mean, we talked about the New York report, but whatever. Yeah, we get back into the Yankees. No. We could.
No, we will jump into Caught Looking.
What do I have here? I
had the Washington Nationals. Without in games they have Max Scherzer, they're 3-1. Games other than that, I think they're like 6-11. So clearly there's something wrong. That lineup is bad. They tried to supplement it with Josh Bell and Kyle Schwarber, who to me are decent supplemental players. They're not going to get you to that next level. All they have right now is Juan Soto and Trey Turner.
And Josh Harrison's been okay. That's been a nice fantasy pickup for me.
I just don't think they hit very well. I think they're missing a bunch. And that lineup, actually, think about it, has some potential with Victor Robles, Trey Turner, Juan Soto, and then if you use
Victor's been very cold.
Yeah, and Robles is one of those young kids. Wouldn't be shocked if they start calling up some of those young shortstops to play third or second to try to get some pop into that lineup. But they also need a pitch ball. They need Strasburg back. That's first and foremost. They need Strasburg back. They need Patrick Corbin to look like he did the last 2 years and in the playoffs. Because Patrick Corbin in the playoffs and even last year was really good. And they need that guy back for this team to have any sort of shot. Because right now they're relying, outside of Max Scherzer, they're relying on Joe Ross, who's been in and out of the organization 3 times. They're relying on John Lester.
He lost me fantasy this week, Joe Ross.
Just third tenure with the Nationals.
If you want to come on the pod and talk about it, Tatis home run.
Yep, that's a bomb. Whoa.
I think my opponent has Fernando.
I have Kershaw.
Oh, lucky you. Well, I have Darvish, so this is a duel. But
I had a feeling that this was going to be a bad weekend for Kershaw because I had a feeling this game would be a kind of a barn burner. And quick shout out to
pitch right in the zone. That was right on the big meaty part of the barrel there.
I didn't say it because
sorry, got excited.
No, you're good. I didn't have a chance to say it, but Javier Baez, quick shout out to Javier Baez. He was in my Caught Looking last week.
Oh boy.
And this past, I don't know, all good shout out. He was cold.
A redemption from the Caught Looking. He hit
4 home runs this week. He had a big grand slam against the Mets. Today hit another home run. He's figuring it out a little bit in his contract year. So Javier Baez is one of my favorite players in MLB. So I'm happy he's getting it together. But back to Caught Looking.
Cubs are slowly but surely figuring it out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here.
They still have a long way to go.
Bless me.
Bless you. I just don't.
If
I
you
don't. I
think
don't think watching them play this week, their bats can keep them afloat. I just don't think they could pitch enough to stand up with anybody.
I just wonder what's going to happen at the deadline with them. Is it going to be a sell situation? But we'll see. In
Yeah.
terms of caught looking, I have the Rockies offense, which isn't necessarily a big shock that they're bad, but their OPS plus is 77. And some other stats, they have the fewest men left on base, which either tells me, but they have above average total bases. So it's very confusing. It doesn't really make any sense that their OPS plus is
They're hitting a
77,
lot.
yet they
They're
have
not solo
above
shots.
average. They have an above average total base, but they leave the fewest men on base. But
A lot of
they're
solo
also
shots.
below average in runs per game. So it's all over the place. But offensively, you think you're in Colorado, the ball obviously carries there.
Story hit his
Pitchers
first home run.
consistently have trouble. Yeah. OPS plus last year was 81. That was with Nolan Arenado, of course, who now is no longer with the organization. He's on the Cardinals. And the year before that, their OPS plus was 90. So it's just been a kind of steady decline. And that also aligns to some of the pieces they've lost along the way. And it's really becoming a bare bones situation there and not looking great. So
I just don't really understand why and how it's been so hard for them to figure out how to contend. I truly don't, because you're in a ballpark
Denver is
that
not a significantly small market. It's not a big market, but it's not a small market.
but not even that. You're a ballpark that relies, and not even relies, but you're prone to the home run ball in Coors Field. And old veteran guys who can hit the ball a long way are usually pretty cheap in free agency. So you're telling me you couldn't stack a few of those next to Arenado and Story and just lead the league in home runs and try to go that way? I just don't. I mean, I guess they had a couple good years, but I don't know. I just feel like it'd be so much easier to bring guys into the Colorado market and say, listen, you can come here on a 1-year deal, pad your stats at 35 home runs, and then go get a 4-year deal somewhere. Like, you can market it that way. I don't get Colorado Rockies at all.
Yeah, I think the issue there is that pitching wise, they're never going to have a decent staff because that's where no pitcher wants to risk their long term financial future on, taking a deal with Colorado, then having an ERA through the roof and losing out on a bunch of future money. So there's always going to be that balancing act there. And it's a division where you have teams like obviously the Dodgers and the Giants, which are two of the marquee names in baseball. And if you're a guy who all of a sudden hits really well, like you said, they're going to want to go somewhere else. You think of even, obviously Arenado, Tulo wanted out after a while. And obviously we know how that went. So
The
that's how it goes.
and what happened?
I said that's how it goes.
Yeah, and I lost my train of where I was going there. But I don't know. I lost every aspect. My brain had it and it flew. But
Rockies, we're talking about the Rockies and hitting they should want to attract veteran hitters who can
oh, there it
the
is. That's what it
ball.
was. There you go. The National League West has to be, if you break it down to every single team in that division, like they have to be the best market for a full division on average in any division, in any sport. You're talking about Arizona.
Even Phoenix
Even Arizona is a good market.
Yeah.
Like Arizona, Colorado. You have San Diego now, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Those are 5 very strong markets. And I don't know if any other division can even stand up with that.
I mean, Phoenix obviously isn't a big baseball town.
But it's a draw.
San Diego wasn't a draw until a couple of years ago. Phoenix, they have a title under their belt. I don't know if anyone really cares about that. Most people more so think about how the Yankees blew that title more than the Diamondbacks winning it. Dodgers, Giants, obviously premier names in the sport. And then Rockies are kind of the upstart out of this group, I guess. So even though the Diamondbacks came around later. So that's the interesting part here. Two of those teams are expansion teams, like recent expansion teams. Obviously, most teams are expansion teams, but they're recent expansion teams. So, and yet they're in significant markets, like you said. So, surprising the Rockies haven't been able to figure it out all these years. But they're hosting the All-Star game, so hey.
Yeah.
Home Run Derby will be fun.
Yeah, so Pete Alonso, we'll jump into this, we'll talk for a second. Pete Alonso said he'll be if he gets asked to, he'll be in the Home Run Derby to defend his crown, and I can imagine how far he'll hit the ball in Coors Field. I mean, he almost hit one at a Wrigley twice this week. I think he did on one of them.
Oh yeah,
Kid's a monster.
That was like when you think of Aaron Judge hitting that ball off the Bank of America sign or whatever was in Yankee Stadium. This is the equivalent, if not more, if not bigger, with Pete Alonso's homer that went, it seems like, across the street from the stadium. It didn't just go out of the stadium. It looked like it just hit someone's window and 3 blocks away.
Who was the one in the Home Run Derby in Miami that hit the back window? Was that Stanton? Or was that Judge? Remember they went head-to-head in the Home Run Derby in Miami? Or was it Sanchez and Stanton?
Gary had a good performance, I think, at one Home Run Derby.
Somebody hit the back window in Miami. I want to say it was Stan. Because that was his final year in Miami for the All-Star game. And I feel like he smashed one off the back window. I guess I'm not wrong. But, it would be definitely fun in Coors Field to see how far the ball can travel. And one would say it would be nasty. So, speaking of nasty, next section, that was nasty. Todd, I'm going to start us up.
I had 2 things written down. Obviously, one of them being Jacob deGrom, so I'm not going to even go into that because we could have talked about him just about every section or segment of this besides the segment about who's cold. The A's winning that game against the Twins where Colme blew the save. He essentially, obviously, you can't get a save credit for a save after you've blown one save opportunity. I don't believe so.
It would be a win.
Right, it would be a win, obviously. So Colme blew the save initially. Then I believe the Twins scored 2 runs. It was 12-10, bottom 10, and A's gave up, or the Twins made 2 or 3 errors in the inning and just completely botched it. And it was one of those where you just kind of smile because the A's are that hot that even when it looks like they've been beaten 6 times in this game, they somehow figure it out. Other random things I like, the Odor bat flip from today. And then just randomly, Lucas Licky threw a pitch today that was disgusting. So just 75 mile an hour, just 12-6 kind of curveball action that just left your knees buckling, and it was ugh, I felt gross after it.
There's, I don't know if it's the level of what we're doing with the spin rate now, or what's going on, but there's some nasty pitchers out there throwing nasty stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're good pitchers, but every now and again they'll throw I think it was Blake Trinan for the Dodgers last night. If you follow Rob Friedman's Twitter account, Pitching Ninja, he always posts them, and it was nasty. I mean, it was a sinker that started over the plate and ended 2 inches off the right of the plate. It was just absolutely filthy. I didn't have that many that was nasties. No, I didn't. I had DeGrom.
Yeah,
And
this is somewhat of a negative baseball podcast. If you haven't gotten our gist,
yeah,
we
we don't
get
like to.
we get kind of we get critical, you know.
Yeah, we'd rather be critical than positive.
Yeah, yeah.
I got nothing. I mean, Byron Buxton, 6 homers, batting 426. That's pretty good.
I mean, it's about time for him, I would say.
He was good last year, though.
I feel like he's like 34, but he's really not.
He's like 20. Let's see. I'm clicking on his name. 27.
If you ask me, like, how old Jose Abreu was, I know we're talking about Buxton, but when we talk about like people's ages,
Yeah.
if you asked me like last year how old I thought Jose Abreu was, I would have been like 28. He's like 34.
Yeah. Well, he came into the league late. Oh, that's a good throw. Oh my God, did he get him? Oh, he dropped it. That was a crazy, crazy play by the catcher. Yeah, no, but if you would have asked me before this year, who's older, Jose Abreu or Byron Buxton, I would have said Byron Buxton.
Yeah.
Like, Jose Abreu, I think, came into the league when he was like 28, 29. So he came from Cuba at the older age. While some other guys like Cespedes came younger. But
isn't Yerman Mercedes kind of in that same situation?
30. He's like 30.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's been in the White Sox system for
He's
a
28.
few years. Yeah. He's been in the White Sox system for a few years, though.
And he's just coming on the scene now. So
I didn't even know. It didn't click to me because I thought he played other positions too. That he was a catcher.
Yeah, I've been waiting in fantasy for him to get catcher eligibility so I can stick him in the catcher spot, but it's not happening.
Well, he's not playing catcher, right?
No, but
he's playing like first or third base.
I think if you play a certain, like, if I don't know, if you get some action or something, you can get eligibility at that position.
You have to.
So
play
I just need him to get eligible somehow.
But I mean, they have two catchers there that I don't see. They have Yasmani and Zach Collins.
Yeah,
two good catchers. I don't see, especially him if he's the hitter he is. They're not going to put him at catcher if they don't have to.
Didn't he pitch a couple nights ago? Yeah, and I think he did okay actually. So yeah, let's throw that in the. And that was nasty.
It was a day game against Boston.
That was nasty, Yerman Mercedes. Nasty. There, we're getting happy.
It was on Marathon Day against Boston when Boston was up huge. They rocked Lucas Giolito.
That wasn't nasty.
Wasn't nasty.
It was nasty for the Red Sox.
Next one is the Balk.
Oh, I have something here, obviously.
Oh, you go. You go then.
My thing here that I want everybody to stop doing. No one talk about the standings. You can talk about the standings, but don't take it legitimately until June. Father's Day. Father's Day is when we analyze the standings and take a real hard look at the standings and see where teams are and see how it nets out. Father's Day, Big Papi Day, Daddy Day. That's when we're going to look at the baseball standings. Mark it on your calendar. I don't care if the Yankees are 5-15 right now. I don't care if the Pittsburgh Pirates are 18-2 and scoring 10 runs a game. I don't care. It doesn't matter right now. Stop talking about it. Stop overanalyzing it. I think it was Andy Martino wrote a piece saying, because obviously Gleyber not running out a ball to the picture, yeah, I kind of have a problem with it a little bit, just because you would like to see him show that, okay, especially given how the Yankees are playing right now, you need to show that you're hustling and you're trying. I just think it's the principle there. I know it's kind of outdated. I would like to see it. I get it if you think it's not a big deal, or another baseball fan, whoever thinks it's not a big deal, I can listen to that. It's fine. But for Andy Martino to say, because, yeah, Glaber's cold too, or was cold. He's picking it up a little bit. But he wrote that right after this situation with him not running hard to first base, where Glaber talked about it after the game. Boone reportedly said something to him, which was probably like they watched a Teletubbies episode together because, and sang Kumbaya instead of, if it was a manager who actually had some stones, would probably try and light a fire under their guys behind instead of just
Francona.
saying, oh, it's okay. Right, like a Francona,
Francona, perfect.
Lou Piniella.
Lou Piniella.
But
Guy's dead.
I just don't want to hear about, like, let's not make a big deal out of anything either way at this point, unless it's standings wise.
Correct.
You can't demote a player based on April. Effort, I want to see. It's less so about him running too hard to first as what it shows about where the Yankees' morale is right now. That's the concerning part for me, is that it shows where the team morale is at this point, or was, because I think they're slowly coming out of it. But that's my rant for now.
Fair enough. I don't. I mean, I obviously agree that don't judge a team till, like you said, Father's Day is a good barometer.
Father's Day.
I usually use the trade deadline, see what teams are buzzing. That's really late in the season, but still. I don't think it was that crazy to think that there was even discussions that they should send Torres down.
I mean, who are you going to call up? And it's not like you have some young star.
Tyler Wade.
Tyler Wade cannot hit the baseball. He cannot.
Thairo Estrada.
He cannot. He's another guy who. Well, they traded Thairo. I like Thairo. They traded him for cash to the Giants.
When was that?
A couple weeks ago. They DFA'd him. I think that was in wake of this Odor move, because that created a domino effect. Tyler Wade got sent down, and then Thairo got DFA'd.
Who's the shortstop kid in your system that's really good?
Who's what?
There's a shortstop in your system that's really good.
What's his name? He's going to play for the Renegades. What is that kid's name? But he's not ready. He's like 20 or 21. Has minimal minor league experience. I forget his name.
Oswaldo Peraza?
Oswaldo Peraza. Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's not ready yet.
Gotcha.
And even still, Glaber has 40 homer. I talked about it he was my prediction for MVP of. Was he my American League pick for MVP? I don't remember. I think
American League MVP. I think you might have.
I think he might have been Glaber too, which wasn't a crazy pick. It's now looking like absolute insanity if you talk to me at this point. Not because, again, we can't overreact to April, but at the same time, and being MVP is consistently putting it together throughout the season, and that means you're going to have one of your best seasons of your career, which I don't think this year is going to turn out that way for Glaber, but it could, because it's only April 23rd. So everyone pump the brakes. Let's talk about Gleyber Torres and see what's going on with Glaber on Father's Day. And We'll have a special Father's Day edition of
Wow.
the On the Bump podcast, even though neither of us are dads, where we'll analyze the standings. We'll go like division by division, quick hits, what
Father,
jumps out
Father's
to
Day
us.
special.
Put that on the calendar.
Mark it on your calendars at home. Write it in. Put an X. I don't know what the date is for
Father's Day
I'm gonna
baseball
guess.
standings review.
I'm gonna guess the date. June.
It's usually the second Sunday in June, right? Or is
June
it the third?
12th.
I'm gonna
Second.
say June 14th.
June
Fathers
20th.
June 20th.
Yeah, that's the third Sunday.
Oh, it is the third Sunday. Okay. I always thought it was the
June
second.
20th is a Sunday. Speaking of Sundays, speaking of weekends, it is time for the weekend cards. Weekend cards with Todd and Nick. Some series this week that are fun. Again, Dodgers Padres go again. I can watch them play every weekend. I would like to watch them play every weekend. They're the Sunday night baseball game, which is how it should be. Yankees,
Yep,
Indians. We talked about Bieber Cole tomorrow. Anything else that stands out? Blue Jays Rays could be interesting.
Boyd versus Brady Singer. That's kind of an interesting, kind of under the radar pitching matchup. I like Matt Boyd in that for obvious reasons.
Reds card.
Yeah.
But there's no good pitching match. Oh no, there is. Sunday is Luis Castillo and Flaherty.
I mean, tomorrow's Snell Bauer. So we have Darvish. Wait. So what's the Sunday night pitching matchup?
Musgrove and May.
So we got Dodgers, Padres, but we got
Musgrove's been a monster.
Yeah, but I mean, you want to see either Kershaw, Darvish, or Snell Bauer.
Would you rather watch Snell or Darvish than Musgrove right now? Right now, at this very second. I mean, regardless, it'll be a fun game. These two teams clearly need each other.
I guess.
Oh, wow. Look at, I mean, they're showing a stat right now of who the Padres have had to face over the past 3 series. Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Bauer, Kershaw, Buehler. Again, it's pretty nasty.
Over under tomorrow, Cole Bieber is 6.5. I think you obviously take the under there. I think that's the move. I would just take the under there. What else would I take here? I think I'd take Boyd. I take Tigers money line.
Mets 1.5 is enticing because Stroman versus Joe Ross.
Joe Ross got cooked in his last start. I think he gave up 10. They left him in too long, though. So it wasn't. He was out of gas. He burned out. It was just a bad situation. So
there's not much else this weekend.
Mets offense woke up a little today, so see if there's a carryover effect tomorrow. Could be worth putting minus 1.5 on them. So I would do that. Let's see. What does that turn into if we parlay? Mets minus 1.5. Yankees, Indians under. Gausman, Pablo Lopez is interesting. The over-under timeout. What am I missing here?
For who?
Tomorrow, Nola, Phillies at the Rockies versus Senzatella, who has been decent this year against the Rockies offense. Remember, this is with the Rockies offense, which is pretty bad. The over-under is 10.
I mean, Nola hasn't been that good.
I talked to Bob about that. I think I'd take the under there, no?
I don't like taking unders in Coors Field. That's a scary under.
10 is ridiculous.
You could say 12, and I probably would be afraid to take it.
No.
I don't like unders at Coors Field. There's too much air quality.
And then let's throw. Okay, so I cannot combine these in a parlay. Why can I not combine
Same
these in
game.
a parlay? No,
Is it the same game?
no. I was going to take Detroit money line, Mets -1.5, Cleveland Yankees under,
Mhm.
Rockies Phillies under. But it says I cannot parlay them. Okay, now it did it. Okay. So, if you want to follow Todd's betting card, I will post this card tomorrow
Don't do it.
because I will actually do this card, I think. Because I
Don't do
do like this. $10, a $10 wager would win you $128.47. So, and I was 3 for 3 today on baseball bets.
Baseball.
What?
I thought you were going to say in general.
No, just baseball. With
Gotcha.
D-backs +1.5, I took Mets -1.5. Obviously, that worked out. And I took the Yankees money line. That worked out. So, might be a good time to follow the wave here and come on board.
Yeah, I hit Mets 1.5 tonight. I hit Yankees money. I hit Red Sox money. I hit Oakland money.
Wow.
The only one I have the Dodgers. But the only one that I'm probably not going to hit.
Should we start posting our baseball?
Probably
bet record?
doesn't hurt. Yeah, doesn't hurt. We could start that tomorrow. We can start counting from tomorrow.
Yeah, the official beginning. We're 0-0 as it stands right now.
We'll come in tomorrow.
Right.
Only bet I'm probably going to miss is Cincinnati Reds, who just figured out life in the ninth. They're down 3. They have the time on at the plate, so brought some life into the building, but probably going to lose that one. So that is the weekend cards. What do you have? Oh, history. As always, history.
Sure. Let me get
see
my
if there's anything
notebook here. Wrote down a few interesting ones here. The Yankees franchise, I feel like I'm reading a story here. The Yankees franchise in 1903 played their first game as a team representing New York, which they had moved the franchise. The franchise started in Baltimore. The franchise that is the New York Yankees today started in Baltimore. They moved to New York in 1903, and they played at, I think it was Hilltop Park in Upper Manhattan, early 20th century. They played, I forget who, it might have been like the Senators or something. They won 7-2. Spitballer Harry Howell pitched a complete game, only gave up 2 hits that were 2 runs, and they won that 7-2. Another Yankee bit here, 2014 was the Pineda Pine Tart incident, which Pineda was dealing. That was I think that was a nationally televised game. I don't remember. And it was at Fenway, I believe.
Yeah, definitely at Fenway. Yep.
And yeah, that obviously was a scene. It's just one of those recent Yankee memories that kind of sticks in your head.
Yep.
Another one that was interesting, I forgot to write down the year here, but I think it was sometime early 70s. First pitcher to lose a no-hitter. Ken Johnson lost a 9-inning no-hitter when in the top of the ninth. I want you to guess here. Think
Okay.
of the time frame. Someone bunted and reached on an error. It's a no-hitter in the top of the ninth. Who is it?
And you said the time frame is the 70s
Like early 70s.
and reached. Who would have done something? Pete Rose.
Yep.
hmm
Bunted, got on in an error. It was a throwing error to first, so he advanced to second. Then another guy hit a ground ball, another throwing error. Pete Rose scores. They win the game 1-0.
Jesus.
So
It's a hell
that's
in a
how
game.
Pete Rose made a guy who threw a no-hitter lose the game.
I have one for you. This year,
Yeah.
2000, 2000, is that right? 2000? No, 1999, excuse me. Fernando Tatis becomes the only player in baseball history to hit 2 grand slams in 1 inning against the Cardinals.
What year?
Or no, against the Dodgers. 99.
Oh, his dad. I was like,
Yeah? Yeah, Fernando
Fernando
Tatis
Tatis Sr.,
Sr.
who people don't recall was actually a good hitter in his own right.
There's a Met.
And yeah, he was for a little bit. And obviously his son got some of those genes, but might have put them to a little better use. We'll find out in the next few years.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Just a little bit. That's history with the On Bump Boys. So, again,
Oh,
look at
we did this in under an hour.
I know this was good timing. Not too bad, not too long. We'll
Yep.
give out our cards tomorrow, so we can start our overall rankings.
We'll maybe post on Spotify.
Again, we always try to. Honestly, guys, if you guys want it on Spotify, reach out to us. Give us
Let us
feedback.
know.
Let us
Let
know
us
where you
know.
want to watch it, and let us get the best use of our time to put it into the right use, whether it's YouTube or Spotify or wherever.
I'll throw a poll out tomorrow.
Big poll day tomorrow. Big
Yeah.
Saturday, big poll, big UFC night.
Maybe we'll do a poll for when do you analyze the baseball standings too.
We'll do a bunch of polls. It'll be just a huge,
We're gonna get
huge day of polls.
engaging this week on
Big engagement.
Twitter.
Yeah,
Big
I would like
engagement.
to do more baseball stuff on our Twitter, but we will. I mean, we all gotta be better at that, but doesn't matter. Point is, another great episode. Episode 23 is in the books. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next week. Enjoy your baseball weekend. Go on.